Okay, welcome back to Wrestling Observer Live. I'm Dave Meltzer, editor of the Wrestling Observer newsletter. We have Bryan Alvarez of Figure 4 Weekly here, and our special guest is Tom Zenk. Tom, this is something that I never had a chance to ask you, and I'm kind of curious about. I think we talked a little bit after this happened, but now it's 6 years later, and it's a totally different perspective. Looking back, since you were actually a part of this trial, what are your thoughts as far as the Vince McMahon trial, your role in it, and just everything that happened? Because it was all going on, and we used to talk as it was going on, and then it was over. And looking back, because I don't know, how do you view everything?
Wow, what a waste of money! The government spent a waste of money on trying to get them. I don't know what was going on there, but everyone knows that Dr. Zahorian was around, and I think my testimony, or what seemed to me, is that you could get draws. I think they want to tie in that you could get money was made available that you could get draws to see the doctor or whatever. And I don't know. Drugs are a part of our society. Wrestlers now, Dave, as you well know, we've talked about drug use and anabolic steroids and the stance on that. They're a felony now. You can't get them, but Mexico, maybe Europe. But the guys now are huge. They're bigger. Growth hormone, I've heard that name around. I mean, guys are huge on TV. I mean, WWF, WCW, I don't know. What did it change, the whole deal of McMahon? I'm not familiar with his side of the story or whatever, but they flew me in from Japan to testify. They really blew it for me in Japan, the United States. I didn't want to testify. I don't have a problem with the guy. He can run his business the way he wants. But, yeah, it just really caused me a lot of aggravation, I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
But
I mean, as far as what did you feel they were wanting you to say, and as far as the cross-examination and everything, how do you feel that all went? When it was over, you're just glad it was over and just go, I don't ever want to do this one again.
Yeah, exactly. It was like, why are they messing with me? I quit. I left. I mean, and then it just keeps reoccurring. They sued me for leaving, breach of contract. They bullied me like that. They turned my life upside down. Then all of a sudden, years later, this whole deal, about Vince McMahon and Zahorian and steroids, it was common knowledge. All the guys, everyone knew about it. It was like, oh man, how did he get off? All of a sudden, what was the final disposition on the case? It was just thrown out. The judge,
the jury voted him not guilty of conspiring with Zahorian, which was basically that was how that one ended. And they had another one of distribution with well, actually what it was Zahorian mailed steroids to Vince, and for Hogan, and so they wanted to charge Vince with distribution, and it came out, and I mean, no one denied that everyone basically admitted that Hogan got steroids sent to a friend of his. Hogan got steroids sent to Hogan.
Yep.
From Zahorian. Hogan got steroids sent to Vince McMahon's office, where we'd go to the office and get the steroids.
Oh, okay.
So they tried to get that as kind of Vince distributing them to Hogan, and it's kind of a fine line whether he did or he didn't. But it's not a fine line of what happened. I think it's pretty clear what happened. But the fine line is that just is like if
wasn't it this argument that they shared?
Their argument was that was not that they shared. I guess that they shared. Yeah, I mean that's kind of how it was put. I mean it was. The deal was that they were trying to charge Vince with distribution because it was mailed to Vince and then he gave them to Hogan. Okay?
Yeah, but they were like buddies, right?
And they were buddies. So the idea was that they were trying to say, which they were, is that they would get the steroids, open the package, and divide them up. So it wasn't like it was a distribution.
Yeah.
And it turned out that whatever you would determine that never really actually got tried. The jury never voted on it because it happened in Connecticut and the case was in what was it? It was in New York, in the Eastern District in Queens. Was it the Eastern District of New York? So they actually didn't have jurisdiction of something that happened in the office in Connecticut. And so that's why that case couldn't have gotten a conviction. So what they did was they tried to say that at one point, one of the steroid packages that Zahorian sent to Vince gave to the limo driver who drove from Connecticut to the Nassau Coliseum, which was within their district, which was in the jurisdiction, to give to Hogan, but they couldn't prove that ever happened. And in fact, what was the most embarrassing part of that one actually is that the package that they alleged was sent. Okay, was sent on October 24th I believe the year would be 1989. I could be wrong, okay? But anyway, it was October. I remember these dates. It was October 24th that Zahorian sent the package FedEx to Vince with the steroids, right?
Yep.
And the show at the Nassau Coliseum that Hogan supposedly got the package was October the 18th. And when I found that out, watching the trial, I'm going, how can you make this? I mean, how did it get all the way to a trial when the dates don't match?
Oh, no.
So that's, I mean, it went that, I mean, we got it that far. And that was, I think, the saddest thing watching that, because they had like an argument for conspiracy. It wasn't very strong. But that distribution argument, it was just like, how could they claim? I mean, the distribution thing, they never had it within the district. And then the thing they had within the district, the dates just didn't match. It was impossible. Unless there was a time machine in those days that Vince invented that we didn't know about.
Yeah, it's kind of funny how things happen, but if they were buddies, and I'm sure Hogan and Vince were, it's, oh wow. But didn't they have a grand jury, and they spent all this money and subpoenaed people?
Oh God, yeah.
Everyone.
They spent years on the case.
But how did that fly? Who was the United States attorney? Something with an Irish name, maybe someone with an M?
Sean O'Shea. Sean O'Shea and was Tony Valenti, right? Those are the guys.
That's it. And McDevitt was for McMahon and Laura Brevetti, right?
Laura Brevetti was one scary woman.
Oh, yeah. I'd take steroids from a trash can. She said about my character, it was like, oh my God. And she, after it was done, she kind of winked at me, like after she tried to light me up, and implicate, that I got steroids from my dad, who was a pharmacist, or family members. They trashed me, and then
they trashed you.
Huh?
They trashed you.
Yeah, big time. So, I mean, it wasn't a pleasurable experience. It's like, oh my gosh. I mean, how nasty they are, but I couldn't believe it. The whole thing, I just couldn't believe he'd go after McMahon and have that weak of a case. McMahon's attorney, they slam dunked him, Sean O'Shea. Yeah, it's embarrassing.
Do you want to know something funny, though, that came out after the case?
Love to.
Okay, is that the key witness in the case was, what was her name? Do you remember the secretary's name?
Oh, no, I know who you're talking about. I read it.
Oh man, the name escapes me right now. Vince McMahon's secretary for a long time. She had a journal and it had like all these logs. And there was a lot of steroid references in her logs, a lot of them.
Okay.
So anyway, the secretary was approached. There's some articles that came out after the trial. One in Village Voice and one in New York Post.
Yep.
And the secretary was approached by a guy who claimed to be an agent who wanted to do a movie on Vince, and also. Claimed to be a 60 Minutes producer at the same time, okay? Yeah. And so he got close to her.
Yep.
And was talking to her, going to represent her, and this and this and this and this, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do you know who he was?
Who?
Secretly, no one knew it?
Who?
The husband of Laura Brevetti.
Oh, no!
Yep. And when Laura Brevetti cross-examined... Emily Feinberg.
That's how she fit in. Oh, Brevetti. Oh, no, that was her husband?
It was her husband, and so when I
what a swerve.
You weren't there, but I was actually there the day that Emily Feinberg was on the stand, and I mean Laura Brevetti. I was like amazed. I thought Laura Brevetti was the greatest attorney in the history of the world. She had ESP. She knew the days that like Emily Feinberg was like on vacation, and she knew everything. And I'm going like, oh my God, this attorney is the most well-researched attorney. And she just ripped Emily Feinberg on the stand. And then when it was over, like I don't know, it was like a good year later when these stories came out, and it was like this light bulb hit, and I go, no wonder she knew everything.
Oh my God.
So anyway, there's like that little there's a lot to that trial.
I have no more questions, Dave. That's great. Oh, that's a good one. That puts all the pieces together.